Welcome to Habitat for Humanity of Montgomery and Delaware Counties Do-It-Yourself series. I'm Patty Post, longtime volunteer and supporter of Habitat for Humanity and true believer in what they do. Today we are going to learn how to remove and replace the caulk in your bathtub, in your tub surround, or on your kitchen counter. It's all the same process. First thing we'll talk about is the tools that we would need for this job. And the very first thing would be to cover the drain in your tub or your shower or even your kitchen sink. You don't want to take any chances if you're working around your sink. And then put something on the floor of the tub as well and the shower surround, because you don't want any tools can drop and make a mess. You don't want caulk on any of these things. Although caulk, at least acrylic caulk will come off scraping it once it dries, but why bother? You don't want to do that. So protect all your surfaces from yourself and from the caulk and from your tools. I'm going to show you the tools that I've gathered that I find useful in this process. First one would be 5-in-1, because you can use the digger, you can use the scraper, you can use the prier. This is a straight edge razor, also for loosening the caulk, or cutting the seal along the edge. You can also use it to scrape the caulk off once we get it down to that. A utility knife, same idea. We might want to use that to release the seal, scrape it a little bit. These tools will harm your tile or your tub, so be careful when you use them. I would sometimes blue tape, we'll talk about that. 70 rubbing alcohol for cleaning the surface so that the caulk will make a good seal when it goes on. You can have a scrubber to get the remnants, whatever's left of the caulk after you've scraped it out with your tools, and a cloth for doing those such things. This is gloves. This is a caulk gun. And your caulk tube, which we're going to talk about in a minute, is going to go right in here, and this is how you're going to apply it. So, first thing we're going to do is clean the caulk, which I've already done. Clean it with your bathroom tile, your bathroom cleaner. Make sure it's as clean as you can get it. If it's cruddy looking because it's really old, do the best you can to get it off with some kind of mildew remover. It's easier to work with and better for you to not have that in your hand. So clean it first, let it dry. Dry it really well and then let it dry. Then the next thing is we're going to try and take the caulk out. So I have to tell you that I did take this out ahead of time because we didn't have to spend so much time doing that. And this is what I did though, and I'll show you as it goes. So the first thing I tried my 5-in-1. So I made a cut down here, and I tried to pull it out and pry it, and I did this, and I did this, and I went along here, and I wasn't having much success. It was stuck pretty well. So I got out my trusty utility knife, and I broke the seal by cutting here. And you need to get past the depth of your tile so that you break the seal that's up around the back that's keeping it waterproof. And then I went along the edge of the tub, same way, very carefully, as flat as you can get your blade so that you do not scratch your tub. So now this is starting to pop out, which is good because that's what you want it to do. But it's popping out because I pulled it out yesterday. So then once I got that sort of moving, I was able to get this one corner out and start pulling. So it sort of looked like this, and then I was able to pull this and pull it, and if I needed to, I could take my blade again and pull it to get it cleaner. And so this is what I have left. So you can see there's a nice space there. It's a big space because I have thick tile. We're going to wash it. So we take our alcohol. The alcohol will clean the surface better than water. We're going to do that, and we're just going to clean it all out. If you got a lot of little stuff in there, you use your non-abrasive. Believe it or not, this is not abrasive. It's some kind of something, but it's not metal. And scrub it out good so that you got plenty of, it's plenty clean and plenty dry and no residue from the previous caulk. And then let it dry. So while that's drying, we're going to prepare the caulk. So the caulk, if it was in your garage or in your car, you just came back from the store, you want to warm it up a little. Doesn't like to be cold, or you can put it in a cup of water to get it warm. Then you're going to put it in your gun, and all guns work a little differently. I found that this one, which is brand new because mine's really cruddy looking, you pull the handle back as far as you can get it, and it should latch back there. So that the pressure point is way back in. Because now I'm going to put my caulk in so that it is snapped in. Sorry, this is the best I can do in a small screen. And then it works by pressing the handle, okay? But before we do that, we need to cut our tip. So the tip in this case probably needs to be a little bigger because of the size of my space. But we're going to cut it small first at a 45-degree angle, because better to start small and have to make it bigger, because once you got a big hole, you got a big hole. So let's try and I'll see if I can do this up here so you can all see it. It's a 45, and the closer to the tip you go. See, now I'm too close because I only have that weeny little hole. I don't know if you can see the weeny little hole or not, but so we're going to do it again, a little bit more angled, and there we have a nice hole. There you go. And I got a little tip on here, so I'm going to take that off with my knife, and then I'm going to put the knife away for now. And this comes on most guns, and this is you put it in the end and it breaks the seal so that the caulk will come out, because the tube is sealed all the way back here. So obviously I can't do that because it's already in the gun. So, but you just take it out and you can see, because now you're going to put it back, and then you're going to squeeze your trigger till you see. You're going to get some caulk out the end. There you go. And now we're ready to start. So by now it's dry. You can wipe it one more time just to make sure that there's no and caulk, you can drag the caulk or you can push the caulk into your work area. It's a personal preference. I would practice both and see which gives you a better result. If you're making a thin line like on trim, I would try pushing it. I think you get less mess that way. But again, it's practice. And I always pulled till just recently somebody showed me how to push it, and I did like it, but I'm going to pull it here. So more for demonstration purposes so that you can see what's going on. And I'll try to stay out of the way so you can see it and see if we can get it into the hole. Before we do that, there is one more thing. Some people like to tape it. So they put the tape on the tile and on the tub, and it goes so that when you don't have it all over the place, and it gives you a guideline to how much to fill in. You have to do it real tight or it's not going to give you it's going to be messy underneath. I didn't put the tape on ahead of time because I wanted you to see that it's a process. So let's try it with the tape and we'll see how it goes. So I'm going to tilt my gun so that the hole is facing into this hole. So now I'm going to got my gun here, and we'll see if this is wide enough, if this hole is big enough. So I'm just pressing the trigger and I'm pulling it nice and easy as we go through here. And see, now it's starting to ripple a little. The less you have to wipe off, the better, but when you're first learning, you do a lot of wiping and it's really okay. All right, we're going to work with that. So now I'm going to put my gun down. You can pull this out so it doesn't keep coming out. And put it down. And I'm going to wet my finger. I would typically be wearing gloves, but I don't have a good feel for the caulk with a glove on. If you're sensitive, it's a good idea to wear gloves. However, that again is also a personal preference. It's the silicone probably should always wear gloves because of the nature of it, but I'm not going to. So I have my cloth and my little cup of water, and I'm going to wet my finger. And it's, you know, I don't want it soaking wet because I don't want dripping all over the place. And then I'm just going to run it along here. And I have all this excess on my finger because I just put too much on there, which is okay. And then I'm gonna clean this off. And that actually looks pretty good. So I'm going to now remove the tape. Ooh, look at that nice line. And then I'm gonna remove the upper tape. And it's recommended that you run your bead again, but I'm not going to because it looks good and I think it's okay the way it is. But typically I would take the tape off, and if there was any residue or any overflow, I would dip again and I would pull it across it again. And this is how you work your way down your tub. And if it's new and you decide to tackle it, or you put tile down and you're going to do around the edges, you can do a longer swath because that way it's easier to keep it not having joints, because you want to smooth it at the joint with your finger and a little water so that you have a continuous line that seals everything. So there you have it. Now, any cleanup I would do with water. If I was using silicone, I would use mineral spirits anywhere. If I got it on my tub, if I got it up on my tile. If you get it on your tile or your tub, you can scrape it off with a very flat blade, and then you let it cure for 24 hours. You want to make sure it's good and sealed. So if you have to use it, cover it with plastic and tape, but I wouldn't recommend it. Plan it so that you have a good 24 hours for it to cure. And you can do it. I mean, I learned, and it takes practice, and sometimes it takes me all afternoon to do it, but it's okay. It's worth it, and when you're done, you can stand back and say, look at that, and look, you can see it looks pretty good right where we did it. So start, if you haven't done it for a while, start in a corner where you're not going to see it very much, so you can have a little practice. If you don't like it, you take your tool and you just scrape it all out and start again. Caulk is inexpensive to practice with in respect to if you don't do a good job and you have a water leak. That's going to be way more expensive to fix. So again, you can do this just with some little bit of practice. And if you do live in a community that it has a homeowners association, please check with them before you do any of these kinds of home repairs. Probably not a caulk job, but you never know. Read the fine print, check with them, because you don't want to pull all that caulk out, all that hard work, and then going, oh, sorry, you can't finish till we inspect it. You don't want that. So always pay attention to those kinds of things. And if you have any questions, let us know. And thank you for joining us.